Food shortages in Australia. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because I want to talk about an article which is highlighting, well, again, concerns with food supply here in Australia. Now, honestly, I am not the slightest bit worried about food shortages in Australia because we all know it's just going to result in food inflation. It's going to become even more and more expensive. And the sad thing is, if we have already inflation, then we've got other things causing difficulty for growers. It's going to drive people to more unhealthy foodstuffs and cheaper products, which is a bit sad. Now, food insecurity is a running, issue in the media for some time and through, most of human history. But in the Western world, it's not really something we have to worry about. They can write articles where the fact that someone has to skip a meal to make ends meet or to pay some bills, that's considered a big deal, and it's almost unacceptable in our culture. Now, I would argue that intermittent fasting and even going without food for extended periods, even a couple of days, is a healthy, natural part of living, and it's something that we should at least endeavor to experience a few times in our life to realize we can survive without eating every 3 hours. And it has health benefits as well, but we're not quite there yet. Not quite. And if we jump over to this screen here, we can see inflation is skyrocketing, 6.1%. Now, historically, that isn't as bad as some of the other insanely high inflation and what inflation other countries are experiencing. But for us here in Australia, where it isn't very exciting, that's definitely an issue. You can see here food and non-alcoholic beverages. The change from 21 to 22 has gone up 5.9%. So food is getting more expensive. Let's have a look at this article here. So rice growers fear La Nina will cause issues with production. And this is leading to concerns with, rice supply. And rice is very popular with many people. And the other thing here with La Nina, we've got to look at this in a little bit more detail because we have a whole lot of Greens politicians using natural weather phenomena in Victoria that's causing flooding to expand their political footprint. They're using it to push an ideological narrative. It's kind of disgusting. And if you're voting for Greens, that's what you're voting for. They're blaming that. They're blaming La Nina effects, which happen quite often, and it's been measured for like 100 years. They're calling that climate change. And they're suggesting that we need less coal mines. These people have gotten into Parliament, guys. They're saying that with a straight face in public, and they're not getting ridiculed. So let's look at this article, everyone, before we look at a few other things. So Australia's major rice grower has flagged that La Nina is causing issues with production, with ongoing concerns that wet weather could impact preparation. Sunrice, an Australian company that exports grain around the globe, has written to shareholders to say that the weather pattern is providing a headache for rice preparation. Though the extra rain has been a great thing for rice production generally, according to Chairman Laurie Arthur, the threat of flood is also front of mind for many growers, with delays already occurring. So, I've been speaking with a number of growers, and I know that rice preparation has been extremely challenging, and some plantings have already been delayed. This has been the case for my own farms here in Melamin, where I've had record rainfall at levels not previously seen at this time of year. The company has extended some relief to growers opting to not enforce a washout clause that would see growers charged if they do not meet a certain volume of paddy. I'm aware that some growers are concerned they may have the washout fee enforced for the calendar year 23 pool, even if they are unable to plant through no fault of their own, but as a consequence of ongoing wet conditions. In light of these concerns, I want to let growers know that the company has considered the washout clause and has decided that this year, 23, the washout fee will not be enforced in the event of growers unable to plant as a result of the wet weather conditions. La Niña is to blame for floods currently ravaging Australia's southeast, with Sydney recording its wettest year on record in 2022. The Bureau of Meteorology expects that while the weather pattern will grow weaker over spring, it is likely to persist into early 2023. BOM extended the long-range forecasts show that above-average rainfall is likely across much of eastern Australia. This reflects the influence of several key climate drivers, a recent report said. And if we have a look here, this image, which should load up, come on, what's going on? There we go. It's a big one. This is a vectorial PDF showing all of the farms in Australia, everyone. And, well, there we go. Look at Victoria. Look at Victoria. Look at Western Australia. Look at how little is in the middle of Australia. This is why when people talk about, oh, look at all the outback that we can use. There's nothing there, guys. Nothing there. You know, a few mining towns and, camps and towns that exist just for historic purposes. But look at it compared to here. And if we get flooding here, this is going to affect the food production capabilities and will drive up costs. Now, I want to talk about La Niña. Let me just bring up some definitions here. I'll just check my data sources because I want to go through these terms because it's something that's important to know, particularly with a lot of the rhetoric we're hearing, or at least what I'm seeing on Twitter from elected politicians, which I find a little disgusting, really, using a natural disaster for political purposes. And that's for either side of politics. So, La Niña is an oceanic and atmospheric phenomenon that is the colder counterpart of El Niño. During a La Niña period, the sea surface temperatures across the eastern equatorial part of the central Pacific Ocean will be lower than normal by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. And we have an image here that shows what's going on. And how is this affecting Australia? Well, yeah, we're affected by it. And this is Australia, across most of the continent, El Niño and La Niña have more impact on climate variability than any other factor. There is a strong correlation between the strength of La Niña and rainfall. The greater the sea surface temperature and southern oscillation difference from normal, the larger the rainfall change. And there is a paper that I intend to go through, probably not in this video, but in another video, and I'll link to it in the description. We have a look here about the predictability of interdecadal changes in ENSO activity and ESNO teleconnections. But if we scroll down here, we'll just look at the introduction. The El Niño Southern Oscillation phenomenon affects climate over many parts of the world, including Australia. El Niño and La Niña tends to increase the risk of dry or wet. So El Niño is dry, La Niña is wet conditions across many parts of Australia, and the economic cost of the Australian droughts, often associated with ENSO, is believed to run into hundreds of millions of dollars. Managerial strategies based on ENSO forecasts could help reduce this, with greater savings expected for more skillful forecasts. And this is the paper here is attempting to try and determine how accurate it is to make predictions and forecasts based on this. So, we'll go through that in another video, probably something a bit more greater detail if you'd like. Let me know in the comments. But it's definitely something that we need to be aware of, because you've got to understand this is a 100% natural phenomenon, and it happens again and again and again. We're going to have an extended dry period eventually, and then we'll again have an extended wet period. You'd almost want to design the infrastructure that you build in your country to deal with that. Maybe if you've got dry spells and wet spells. A lot of Australia is a desert, everyone. It would be good if we looked at increasing our long-term potable water storage, not for one day of renewable battery power, like the dams they're proposing here, but to ensure our potable water can meet our agricultural, industrial, and population needs. I'm just saying. So, well, let's have a little talk about that. Should we be worried? If those of you that love your rice, that start adding it to all your dishes, should you be worried? Well, the worst case is costs will go up. A food staple will go up. It will become more expensive for Australia. What really is concerning is the nations overseas that depend on Australian exports. And let me bring that up, everyone. Why not? We haven't been to the Observatory of Economic Complexity in a few times. And I know viewers are asking for it. So if we have a look here, this is it. And if we look at the historical export data and rice, at least in, there we go. Here we go, at least in, what year is this? 2020 data? Yeah, 2020 data, we exported $70 million of rice, 0.028% of our exports. So, it's not that significant, guys. I mean, wine, there you go, it's $2 billion. What else? What's over here? Video displays, 58 million. So video displays are nearly at that level. Let's find something else. Lifting machinery. We export more value in lifting machinery than we do in rice. Okay, so just keep that in mind, because Australia is not really known as a country where you buy lifting machinery from. But the nations that are importing our rice, the destinations, are Israel, nearly 40% of Australian rice, which... would they be getting it from Australia? I guess. Maybe. I mean, it is a food stuff that you can throw on a ship and transport all around. Then Jordan, so a lot of the Middle East, Hong Kong, Singapore, the Kiwis, New Zealand, and then we have, what else? South Africa, Canada, Sweden, and the United States. But really it's Israel, New Zealand, and Jordan are the big three that will be impacted by our rice exports. And Jordan probably is the country that would have, the least financial capacity to deal with it compared to Israel and New Zealand. So I don't think it's something on a global level that we should be worried about. I mean, there you go. They import more sheep and goat meat from Australia than they do rice. As much dry legumes, pretty much, as rice. So, they'll find a way to survive, everyone. So when we see these type of things reported in the media, just prepare, just be sensible, and just realize it means certain foodstuffs are going to get more expensive. This is just what we need, guys, more inflation. As always, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Please check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other content that I create. And if you're a fan and want to support us, there are a few ways you can. Financially through YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links on Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve or AussieBroadband, buying our pocket squares or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Now, if we had a coffee problem, that'd be serious.